What is it?
They're surrounding us.
First of all, had you seen Skyline or Beyond Skyline before getting involved in this project?
I had no idea it existed. Did not know anything about it, and then just jumped in.
Mm-hmm.
And I still needed help, still need people to say, what is this? And they were like, we've been doing this for a while, so just play the game, we'll be fine.
Fair enough. So how did you hear about it? Were you approached?
My agent sent it to me, and I had a look at it, and it's a kind of project that I kind of like to do, because I do a lot of kind of pretty straight, difficult, cerebral, whatever you want to call it, projects. And it was a project with a very great risk, in the sense that if the director wasn't on board with what I felt the project was, we were going to be doing two different projects at the same time. And I was approaching it like, this is no Citizen Kane. This is a romp. This is a lot of fun. This is not Radiohead, it's Muse. And luckily, because you can't actually tell a director that to his face, because if he has written a Citizen Kane, he thinks is a Citizen Kane, and it's really offensive. We just flew, and that's where you have to place, put your performance in a specific spot depending on the kind of film it is. A romp like this can take a slightly bigger performance, and also all the innuendo and the nuances that have to be adjusted for that. And it was really good fun that it was. And I watched it the other day with my wife, and we really, really liked it. It was really, actually, surprisingly good. I was surprised.
It's just so much fun. And to be honest, I was mostly just impressed with all the effects and the graphics, especially for such a small budget movie. I was just like, how did they pull this off?
Absolutely. And it was really clever color choices. I mean, when you have that kind of thrash metal throb underneath the movie, which came in from time to time, and then you've got this red and blue combination of colors on everybody's faces. So the top half is red and the bottom half is blue, or vice versa. And it's like, wow, that's really stylized in an interesting way. And I just thought it was, and then it just takes off. You have to invest in the first hour, 45 minutes, 40 minutes, because they're telling you what on earth is happening, where we are, they're trying to fill you in on the movies that came in before, so that everybody's up to speed in case they haven't seen the thing, like me. And then it just takes off and just smashes you in the face. It's really good fun.
Yeah. And what did you enjoy most about playing General Radford's quite a fun character, really,
he's
to be playing?
Cool. Yeah, I think I just like keeping it under my hat for as long, keeping a lid on the performance for as long as possible.
Yeah.
And then there's a moment where Rose, Lindsay Morgan's character, agrees to come with me, to come with us on this mission. And she walks out, and I just get a little smile to myself that things are on course. And that's where the whole performance turns, and I can just start letting off, loosening the clothes and the layers, and letting people see a bit more of what kind of a huge asshole this guy is.
Yeah, that does sound fun.
It is.
And have you seen the first two movies since you've been on Skylines?
No, I haven't. I'm terrible at that stuff.
I don't even know if that would make much of a difference, to be honest, because it's not like your character was in it before.
It's not like I needed to catch up on something. I'm really up to speed with what goes on now, and I'm good. I've got too much. There's too much TV for me to watch already. I can't get
so much TV, and you know that better than most because you've been in most of it.
I've been in a lot of it. I'm a real tramp.
But it just occurred to me, is Skylines the first time you've been back in space since Star Trek?
Ooh, good question. Yeah, I think it is, actually.
It is?
I haven't been.
It's been a while.
Been back in space. Yes, indeed. That's like over 25 years.
That's
That is
really
the
cool.
first time. Yeah. It's going to an audition for the next Star Trek. Maybe I'll get another job in Star Trek.
Yeah. Oh God. And
you weren't even born when I did Star Trek. That's what's hilarious.
But I have watched it. I think that's the beauty of how much TV is now available now, that like I can just binge watch something that came out before I was even on this planet.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know how you find. I mean, the thing I have trouble with, and this is what's great about doing interviews like this, is that I don't know what to watch. I mean, I cannot get information because I know there are gems out there that I just don't know about, and so yeah,
and you'll always hear conflicting ones as well. You're like, oh, there's this and this, and then it's just so overwhelming that you end up watching something you've watched already because it's just
so true.
Avoids the choice. Yeah, but yeah, you've mentioned sort of shedding the layers on this character and the kind of moral ambiguity to straight villain kind of journey. You've played a lot of those kinds of ambiguous characters. What is it that draws you to that?
Because I think we're all like that. I think that's the one thing that we all have in common. We are all ambiguous, you know. We present this facade to people we meet or date or hang out with for a few weeks, and then you hook up with someone and they find out the other you. And you know, and that's that is us. That's who we are. And then you spend your life trying to unlearn your bad habits, your terrible traits, your manipulativeness and your darkness, and so that you can actually be with someone and be terrific around them. And some people can't do it, and that's and the general that I played just simply is not interested, and it's kind of an interesting time to be playing that kind of character because they've existed forever, let's face it. But right now it's really appropriate because we have people who are genuinely like that, running lots of vast areas in the world, and it's as if the means justifies the ends now. And it doesn't matter how horrible we are to each other or how nasty the situations that develop, like this pandemic, which has been pretty badly mishandled most of the world around. And it doesn't matter because how many people die, as long as the war is won elsewhere, we get more money or we become, you know, sexier to people, and that is an uncool trait. And I think that that sort of ambiguity is in all of us.
That's a good answer. Also, quite a turn from what you started off as with Deep Space Nine, which was quite a very sort of morally good character as well. Does that play a part in it, that you kind of just wanted a change of pace?
You know, I just think that people think I'm nasty. And that's why I get these roles. I just can't imagine anything else because I don't look for them. I don't ask for them. I don't, they just arrive, and they're always kind of villainous. Either villains who turn out to be good or good people who turn out to be villains. So there must be something in my makeup that people go, oh, he's deeply unpleasant.
I don't trust him. And to that role of you in Deep Space Nine, you were just starting out in the industry at that point. You'd done, I think, a couple film roles, but nothing major. Was that quite a stark sort of learning curve, starting out on such a big show?
Yeah, absolutely. Are you kidding?
You were only 26, right?
Yeah, and I was in sharing a little house in Tooting in London with my good friend Paul Paisley, who's also an actor now, and a very distinguished one. And suddenly this call came through. Do you want to do you want to interview for Star Trek? And I was like, sure. And I didn't realize it was a whole series. I thought it was just one show in The Next Generation, and they didn't tell me anything about it. And all I had to say was no, if I remember correctly. And the scene went on. At some point, I just had to go, no. And the scene went on, and that was the end of that. It was like the easiest audition I'd ever done. And then a week later, they said, come out to America for a test. And so I went out for a test. And the first time I'd ever flown, I can't remember what it was, Premium Economy it was called, on Virgin Airlines. Pretty fancy. And I went out there, gave my no to the assembled studio executives. There were about 20 of them in the room. And we walked outside at the end, and they went, "Well, I hope you're looking forward to coming to America." And I was like, "What?" And that was that. I was up and running.
Talk about change.
Yeah, 4 days later, I flew out and started the show. And it was just crazy. I'd never been in the States. There were these famous LA riots after the beating up of Rodney King had just happened. So some of the streets were smoking still. 1992. It was all hope. It was all just like, wow. I think Tony Blair was just elected.
Yeah,
it was like, and he was everybody's hope at that time in the UK. And so everyone thought it was just a time that was so full of beauty and spring in the air, even though it was deep summer. And then I got to do this crazy show and go to work on Paramount Studios, and where some of the greatest movie stars have ever worked all their lives. We had 2-3 stages to ourselves. The Next Generation was just over the road. Crazy times.
Yeah, that must have been such a deep dive, really. Like, there's no shallow end there.
No shallow end. I mean, going from basically abandoning a car on a street because I couldn't afford to pay for the clamp to come off to getting $7,000 a week.
That's not a bad step up. But what I find interesting is that you did this role when you were in your mid-20s, but I've read interviews where you've said that you didn't really know that you wanted to pursue acting as a career until you were in your early 40s.
I did. That's absolutely true. I'd made the movie Syriana, and I decided, right, I'm an actor. And up until then, I was sort of battling with the desire to be a director. And I finally got this break, Syriana, where everything seemed to be in the right place. I was it was well received, I guess. That I went, well, I suppose I'm okay at this. I better relax and stop trying to beat a different drum and just be a damn actor like you are. But up until then, I was like, I was pushing and squeezing and looking over the wall at the green grass over the other side of it, going, I could be a director. But then I just gave up.
But you'd done directing, hadn't you? Didn't you direct a couple episodes of Deep Space Nine as well?
I did. I directed it. I had a theatre company when I first started, when I first left acting school. With another director called Rufus Norris, who now runs the National Theatre.
Okay.
And we both started out in this little company called Arts Threshold, and we did, half a dozen plays. And then I started doing film because there were no Arab actors in the UK who could go to Mecca, and I had a Muslim name. I still have a Muslim name, and so I was permitted to go to Mecca, ridiculously. And then I went. Did a series there with Brian Cox, Jane Lapotaire, and then did a movie with Ray Fiennes, and Star Trek came calling. Incredibly lucky. It's like a lottery.
Yeah, that's a lot of chance event. That's quite interesting.
You're not kidding. Especially for someone who didn't. I think because you don't want to do it, you're not trying to do it, you're not desperate, it just comes,
It just comes to you. Just give up and it'll come to you.
Give up and it will come. It's a bit like finding love, the minute you stop, it's like, whoa.
Yeah, but so does that mean you're not really considering doing directing anymore, or does that just mean you're done actively pursuing?
I'm definitely done actively pursuing it. It might happen in the future because I'm still learning. But we are producing, my business partner and myself, and so we've got several shows that we're producing, which I really enjoy, which is it's one step higher than directing, if you like, because we find a director and we find a writer and we try and get the show together and find a wonderful book. So I'm doing that. That's kind of I think that might take me into my retirement whenever that comes. It could be tomorrow.
Not quite
you never
yet.
know. You never know as an actor.
I suppose
the phone stops ringing.
Yeah, but I suppose producing, you kind of get the best of all the worlds, really. You get to exercise that creative control without necessarily, the pressure
Yeah, and
of
it
directing.
absolutely, and there's a discipline too to be producers have to be a good producer has to be really generous and allow other people to have ideas. And in fact, you are just basically the pass through for lots of good ideas. And if you know how to say yes and no, you're in good shape. And then director, of course, has the complete control on set, and you try not to get in her or his way. And then you're beginning to cook with petrol.
Mm. And you've, of course, been in some really big shows, from like Game of Thrones to Gotham and things. What have been your some of your favorite roles or most challenging roles to date?
My favorite role for sentimental reasons was a character, a general I played in A Kingdom of Heaven, Ridley Scott film.
Oh, yes, right.
I absolutely loved that. It was the first big movie I ever did. I mean, really big movie that I ever did. And it was such a lovely thing to say about the Arab world after 9/11, which had only just really happened. So that was a really important role for me. And then, but there was a role in a show called Spooks. I only did it for one episode, just one episode, and I loved that. That single little role I played in that is one of my favorites ever. And obviously Deep Space Nine, playing Bashir, was, you know what, the further back it is and the more distant it is in my rearview mirror, the more affectionate I become towards that character. And now I'm talking to people, a lot of people, because we have this social club online, and anybody's welcome, and they all pile in and we talk and chat about what's going on. And I just find out, I'm beginning to understand just how much of an effect that had on people, that character, and how important it was at that time.
Was there an initial sort of instinct when you first finished Deep Space Nine to kind of distance yourself from that character?
Absolutely. Yeah. I couldn't wait to stop. Apart from anything else, Star Trek actors at that time, there was a terrible a trend for never working again if you were a Star Trek actor. So many Star Trek actors never worked again. I mean, they did, but just not, as much as they should have.
Not to that high profile.
Not to that level. Exactly. And they had a reputation for being slightly dodgy, not really very good actors, which is bizarre, but that's how it was. So I couldn't wait to sort of get rid of that persona so that I wouldn't be tarnished by that brush and I could move on and do some more work and earn a living. And it was dicey for a little while. It was difficult until a movie happened called The Vertical Limit. The director gave me a role in it as a favor to my agent, frankly, because I just was sitting around in that post Star Trek malaise. And so this director kindly, Martin Campbell, gave me this role, and that allowed me to got me in the door of movies. Everything's segregated. Movies are segregated. Yeah, then you have to do a TV show that's segregated. A series, you have to be a series actor before you can do series. I mean, it's like crazy.
Yeah.
So I got that. So I opened the movie world up to me, and then I could, and I started doing films.
And it's interesting because looking at your filmography, you kind of get the sense that you were distancing yourself from just genre in general post Star Trek, and then slowly you start getting back into those kinds of shows like Primeval and a bunch of others.
Absolutely. I did. Yeah, I got into it once I got far enough away from it, and once I felt relaxed that I was okay, that I wasn't washed up, I went back to those genres because they're really close to my heart. I really love what they do for people. I think they're as important as any medicine, where it shows people can just switch off, know there's not going to be anything too offensive, and just enjoy the fun of it, which is basically what Skylines is. It's a switch off movie, and we'll take you somewhere else. And it's
quite
not
literally.
Literally. And it's not going to be disgusting or horrifying. And your kids can wander in and they can hang around and they can wander out again. And they might, you won't have to be like,
Yeah, which is quite fun because a lot of times with those kinds of sci-fi movies, sort of action romps, there tends to be some like non-family friendly content, but that's not the case with Skylines. It's very much like escapism. Really.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
the
just
word
fun.
fuck That's it. That you know, you got that sort of stuff. But every kid knows that word. As soon as you walk out the room as a parent, your kids are like, "What the fuck are they doing?" And so I'm okay with language. I mean, I always choose family-friendly stuff when I do that, that sort of thing. And then occasionally I'll go more dark with like Peaky Blinders or Syriana or one of the many sort of Arab-centric pieces that I hope to try and do as well.
What kinds of projects are you hoping to do in the near future then?
I don't know. I mean, I've done nothing this year. I've
Not many people have.
No, it's true. I just sit around. Thank God I've got enough money to borrow money. You know, you need to have money to borrow money. Isn't that weird? So I've been able to borrow enough cash to see me through the year. I'll have to pay it back to someone. But, you know, I think I probably want to do a slightly more arch political, difficult piece now. I'm probably looking for, you know, I like to alternate, do a little bit of fun, have fun, and then, you know, this is going to try and change the world type politics. And that's probably where I'm headed if I had the choice.
Is that the kind of projects that you're producing at the moment with your company? We
produce sort of pretty familiar things that we think are strange. So I'm obsessed with identity. I think identity is the big issue right now, and who we are and what we think to present ourselves as, and whether or not we're they or he or she or, you know. And I'm being taught hard lessons because I'm useless. I'm always like, well, she looks like she is not a she is a they. And I'm like, oh, and I'm being taught, and I found it silly at first, but now I find it deadly serious. And I'm really concerned with being respectful and getting people's identities right. And I'm really interested in that whole world and all the different communities and people with any kind of sort of neural diversity that pops up, whether it's from being on the syndrome, Asperger's or autism or ADHD or being queer, you know, all that stuff. Black. I look at myself in the mirror sometimes and sort of have to tell my wife calls me black, and I have to say, I'm brown, darling, I'm brown. We're going to get that right. But you know, all of this stuff now is really important to us, and I think we need to explore all that stuff. So I'm really big into that.
And it's nice because it's almost full circle, because Deep Space Nine was at the time one of the most inclusive shows, and Star Trek's always been a sort of at the forefront of that diversity push. Yeah, so it's quite nice that. Yeah,
that's very astute of you. That's absolutely true, and it was it was a front runner for a lot of things. Never had a black man in charge of in leading a primetime television show unless it was a blaxploitation piece, you know. And it was. I'm very proud of that work that I have absolutely nothing to do with because I didn't cast it.
No, but you were part of it, and you know, even post 2001, having someone who looks like you on a primetime show was quite different.
Yeah. And then especially 2 or 3 of us, you know, and then a female lead. And then Star Trek is amazing. It's amazing. I mean, people denigrate it, and that's fine. We do too, you know, we take the piss. But it's astonishing what good work Star Trek has produced and still producing.
Yeah. And have you watched Picard by any chance?
I haven't, because I have to buy it.
Yeah, no, but I was just wondering because it is having such a resurgence, and you know, they're bringing back characters that many fans had thought they'd said goodbye to. Would there ever be a possibility of you coming back to that universe?
Maybe, I don't know. They would have to call me. I mean, it's really weird because I'm really protective of my character, and if I think that my character is doing something weird, I just won't do it. And that's really basically the framework within which I can work, within which I might come back. I think I'd like to. I think it's been long enough, and I'm just young enough still to do it again, and have a look at Bashir, and see where he's at right now, especially because he was just starting Section 31, and there was a shady side to him appearing just as we ended the show, and is he the ambiguous character that I end up playing all my life? And that
foreshadowing.
Yes, exactly. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah. And sorry, I lost my track of thought just then.
It happens to me all the time.
But yeah, with roles like that, I feel like you really have to be quite protective of them, because I read a piece in which you were talking about your exit from Game of Thrones and about how you felt like there was so much more to the character that you could have done prior to the quite abrupt death. Are there any other roles like that that you kind of wish
they come all the time?
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I was really, I suppose disappointed is too strong a word, but I was a little bit pissed that my character Ra's al Ghul in Gotham just sort of was decoration, really. He didn't do anything interesting. He didn't bite anything. And I had this wonderful young actor who was playing Batman, David, and I just didn't. I could have really got my claws into him, and I didn't. That all kind of went there. Although I didn't leave, I think I played a role in Atlantis, which was a TV show in England. That was like a blancmange, that was like one of the most pathetic roles. I couldn't wait to get out of that. So I often screw up, but I didn't screw up with Gotham. It just was unfortunate that it wasn't exploited properly as much as it could have been. But that's just my selfishness. They had bigger fish to fry. They had more important things to do than worry about what my character was doing.
Is that ever part of why you wanted to direct prior, that sort of keeping control over the story?
Absolutely. I love the interpretive side of art. I love how this comes across, what these words might mean to people. So directors control that element. They can't, then it's not their face, but they get to say, we're going to suggest this. This is what the show's about. So, for example, Skylines is definitely about the rise of authoritarianism in a world that is becoming more and more prejudiced, polarized, and these wonderful aliens who, they're girls and boys, but they're kind of androgynous, cross-gender. And that I love too. That's very modern.
Yeah, absolutely, and kind of fits in with the project you said you'd like to get involved in as well on the producing side.
Absolutely.
And yeah, just as a last question, what do you have any inkling as to what you might be doing next, or is it very much a come as it goes?
Yeah, we'll come and wait and see. I mean, there's a movie I made that is yet to come out. It might come out in a couple of years. Might come out in a year. Who knows?
No one.
It's one of those, and that's for a very great American director. And then after that, I have absolutely no idea. I rather hope the phone starts to ring soon, because we're just doing a one present Christmas this year. I'd like to.
You need to go back to get more money, more loans.
Exactly. I'd like to bump it up to more than one present.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you too.